Welcome in and thank you for watching. In this episode, I chat with my British friend who's a dad, gamer, poet, and Twitch mod. He's also a published author with a book on Amazon. We talk about his experiences as a disabled parent, his creative journey in writing and poetry, and what it's like to balance fatherhood, gaming, and streaming. We also discuss how our different beliefs bring unique perspectives to our friendship. Tune in for an inspiring conversation about resilience, creativity, and the world of Twitch and gaming. Welcome in, bro. Finally, we're doing this. I know you've been going through a lot of things, which has delayed this interview, but here we are finally. Let's take it back to the beginning. Can you share a story of how we met and what made us connect, both as friends and collaborators in the gaming and streaming world?
I don't actually remember how I ended up in your stream. It was a random day, random raid, and you know me, I'm always tabbed up on quite a lot of streamers, and somehow I went down the raid rabbit hole and ended up in your stream one day. And you were playing away on Days Gone.
Great game.
And it's not one that I'd played myself because I'd seen too many people having to go back and save at the bike, and I'm like, hell no. I'm not doing all that walking just to save a game. And your vibe was like bootleg stream at the time. You were in a similar situation to me, streaming straight from a PlayStation, no cam, no nothing, just starting out. And I've always supported smaller streamers since I came into streaming. I understand that some of the big streamers have made it and they've got to where they've got because they're fantastic at it, but they don't need the extra support now. They get people coming in every single day because they've already got a name. And I like going out there and discovering new, unique people. So I came along to your stream and I saw you were just quietly playing along on your game. I had a bit of a talk with you and you thought straight away that I was a troll.
I did.
Turns out you were correct. I am a troll.
Still are to this day.
But I remember the main moment when we actually properly started connecting was the big metal axe and the dream.
I still have that clip.
Because when you were playing along, you were being very negative towards yourself, saying you couldn't do it, you couldn't do it, you couldn't do it. And I told you, listen, you got an axe. You may have some freakers you got to kill, but you got an axe. Just get in there and do it, woman.
Yeah, I laughed so hard.
And then you went along and you got through it and you were so jubilant on the other end of it.
I was.
We couldn't see you, but I knew you were bouncing around on your floor because I remember at the time you had your TV on a chair.
Yeah, I did.
The PlayStation on the floor at the side of it, and you were kneeling on the floor in front of it playing.
Yes.
And I know full well you were bouncing up and down because you got through it, and that's when I clipped it and said Big Metal Axe and a Dream, and that's where it stuck. And I think I may have already been made a mod by that point. I'm not sure though.
I'm not sure.
But like it was just because I'd been in a few times and I'd seen the vibe was really down to earth. There's nothing fake about you. I could get behind that. I could get along with you on it. And then you saw that the same was reciprocated because I just generally don't present myself in any which way other than myself.
True.
I don't know how to be anybody but me, and I've always been the same way. When we went through that and we'd got through the Days Gone thing and I became a mod and I started watching you growing and you became more and more, and yeah, we've had some hiccups along the way and you've had your days where you've been like, I can't stream no more, I can't do this, because you tell yourself all your negative things.
Mm-hmm. And you've had many phone calls.
I know, and I knew that you'd always be around even if you did decide one day to stop streaming, but I knew you'd be able to come back because you had the capability of making it. And it's not just about having the equipment, it was about having the right personality. So yes, some days your anxiety gets the better of you and it pulls you away from it and it makes you feel like you can't do it. But when you come back and you've got the people in there talking to you, you know how to entertain.
Thank you for saying
that. I don't think you actually know how to entertain yourself. Like, you don't think you do, but your natural personality is entertaining, whether you believe it or not.
Thank you, bro.
Mostly when you're getting trolled, by the way.
Yes, especially when I'm getting trolled. So we've been through a lot since then. How has our friendship influenced your journey as a gamer, writer, or streamer?
As a gamer, I mean, you've been saying it to me all along. I've got to come away from COD a little bit. So,
Yes,
I
please.
started spreading into new games. I didn't stick to all of the new games because I find it very difficult sometimes to pick up a game that's going to take me 3-4 hours to get through a stage, whereas I can play multiple games of COD in that time and say, right, that's it, stream over for me. I can go rest and deal with my pain. Not that I ever did. It always ended up a 13-hour stream somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
But like I started branching out again because I used to play all sorts of games when I was a kid, and it was only when I ended up stuck at home more and stuck in my head more that I went to Call of Duty, because it was something I could pick up, play for 10-15 minutes, get through one game, say, okay, my pain's too much, I can put it back down. And then from there on, it became sort of like a crutch to me. So if I was having a bad day, I'd go and shoot some people on Call of Duty. If my pain was too high, I'd attempt to shoot some people on Call of Duty, just to try and make myself feel a little bit better. So it became sort of like a medication. And not that it ever actually helped take the pain away, but it made me feel more positive about my capabilities still.
Yeah.
And outside of that, it's like I've always known that I'm not for everybody. I am certainly an acquired taste. And that's because I will tell my truth no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
But not only that, I will give my advice to people in certain situations and they won't like it. And with you, you've always been open to hearing what I've got to say and actioning things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm telling you that, you're struggling with how you're feeling about your streams going and stuff, and I'm like, you're doing brilliant, you're just beating yourself up inside and you need to stop listening to the voice in your head and looking at the numbers and just have fun.
Yeah.
The point of the games and the streams aren't to be a job, it's to have fun and share that enjoyment of life with other people. We're all here for a break from a reality that we don't want to live in. That's what Twitch is for us. That's what YouTube is for us. It's what the game itself is for us. Society outside of the four walls we live in isn't the fun place that we want it to be. But inside, at a PC or a PlayStation or an Xbox, we can have whatever we want.
True.
We can be ourselves and have the community that understands who we are, because they've been lifelong gamers as well. And they're all searching for the same break from reality.
Mm-hmm. So you're a Twitch streamer and my mod. So what's been your favorite part of being involved in the Twitch community, and what's your biggest challenges as a streamer?
My favourite part of streaming's always been the way I started. It's been the seasonal support streams. Now, I'd love to do more things like that, but obviously, as you understand, with my disability, I can't always stream, and that has been the hardest part of streaming for me.
Yeah.
Because I would love to be more consistent. I'd love to be able to stream every single day, but between my disability and the allowances of work capabilities by my government, I'm actually not allowed to stream every single month. Otherwise, I would lose the money that I get for my disability, whether I'm earning on Twitch or not. So I've kind of got to balance a lot of things out around that. So like, I'd love to be on every single day, coming, seeing the community, enjoying life with everybody. But physically, I'm struggling to get on once a week at this moment in time. I'm even struggling to simply game at this moment in time. So it's not an easy thing to take mentally.
Yeah.
Because I've gone from being fully capable of doing everything to struggling to even be able to see on a game where my enemies are coming from and stuff like that.
Yeah. Can you explain for the viewers what actually happened to you to cause your disability?
Yeah, I had a fight with a machine at work. I used to build and dismantle mast climbing working platforms, which are basically motorised scaffolding. And as I was taking one down one day, it collapsed on top of me. It was 1.25 tons in weight, and it landed onto my shoulder and knocked me down into the rubble below. I continued to work with the injury like an idiot for the next 4.5, 5 years on and off, and I'd had something triggered by that accident and the stress that came around it, which was an autoimmune response, and it's called complex regional pain syndrome and also fibromyalgia. Now, complex regional pain syndrome has its own nickname, and it's one of the most horrific diseases on this earth for someone to live with on a daily basis, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. It's nicknamed the suicide disease because for 100% of your life you're going to be in pain. There isn't an amount of medication that you can take that will stop it, because your brain will fire it down a different nerve path to make sure you feel that pain. So you cannot numb enough unless you cut all nerves in your body off from feeling. And then you can't feel anything at all, so what's the point in living anyway? So yeah, I've been dealing with that now for just over 16 years.
Yeah.
And originally it was mild, and back in 2008 when it happened to me, I was still capable of gaming at a regular basis. I was able to walk, I was working, I could still go out and enjoy my life. Now it's a lot different. Obviously, I ended up in a wheelchair from it, which has been a challenge in itself because they keep breaking down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then just the capability of simply holding a controller. For a good 3 or 4 years, I couldn't hold a controller. So for a long period of time, it was impossible to game. I'd get 10, 15 minutes, which is why I said before about the Call of Duty. And then I'd have to put the controller down because it hurt too much to hold it. And then I ended up finding a controller that I was capable of holding for a longer period. And I started getting back into gaming a little bit more. And that's when I started contemplating the idea of maybe coming streaming, just for something to do to build a community, to speak to people on a regular basis, because I don't have an opportunity to socialise from within my house. And my partner was all behind the idea, but I'd turned around and said, but is it really feasible? Because at the time, my mental health was going down a different rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And it was a horrible one. And it was because I'd not long since ended up in the wheelchair. So my brain was telling me, nobody's going to want to see a cripple play a game badly when there are more talented people out there that are playing it well. And I kept telling myself this over and over and over again. And eventually, my partner just turned around and said, just do it. You keep talking about it. You keep questioning whether you're capable of it. Try it. She says, you've made some friends in the community already, because I had been modding for around a year by this point when I started streaming between YouTube and Twitch.
Yeah.
And I took a chance. But I didn't just take a chance in the normal way. I decided if I was going to come into it, I was going to come into it on Christmas Day, doing a 24-hour stream with multiple other streamers. And I created the seasonal support streams, and that was my first ever stream on Twitch.
Nice.
Starting up something that's now going into its 5th year. And it was surreal, because I didn't believe that half the people that were taking part in it would actually want to, because they'd never heard of anything like that being done. But I'd been doing it on Instagram, where I used to do the live reads of the poetry. And although we didn't have the capability of raiding or hosting, I know we've lost the hosting part now on Twitch, but we can still do the raids. And I went from doing it on Instagram, where we'd have to say like, oh, such and such a body's going on next, you go find them, you go follow them, you go into their live, to being able to just click a button and there you go. I'm sending you off to another safe space. This is where you're going to be for the next couple of hours if you're alone over the holidays. We don't want you to be, so you're going to have a safe space to be now, and they'll pass you on to somebody else, so you will be with somebody for the entire day. And I had messages after that first year that were like, I didn't feel like facing the holidays this year, and I'd been in a position where I was contemplating not making it through the holidays, but finding something like this where people were getting together to support people in this situation. It gave me the hope for the future, and it stopped me from doing something that I may have regretted. And I mean, what more can you want out of life than to hear those kind of words said to you?
Exactly. Helping somebody else. So you're also a dad. How do you balance your creative outlets with parenting, especially given the unique challenges you face as a disabled parent?
That one, that one's the most difficult out of the lot,
Explain.
because I get phone calls at random times saying that I'm just going to come and drop your daughter off. You're going to look after her for a couple of hours. And I've had to rebuild that boundary between me and my ex-partner, because it shouldn't be that way. If you're co-parenting, there should be full communication. It shouldn't be on the day where you're told, this is what's happening, your kids are coming, you're looking after them for a few hours. It should be planned in advance, so that if I've got any plans, like if I wanted to go out, I have the capability of doing so.
Yeah. Understandable.
which is something she didn't understand for a long time. But she still does every now and again turn around and just call me up at random and say, I need you to have your daughter. And I'm like, I get it. You need a little help right now, but you're giving me no notice and I've got plans. And then it's like, well, break your plans. This is your daughter. I'm thinking that's not how it works, because I don't tell you to break your plans for our daughter. I don't send her back to you. I keep her here. So if I'm planning on doing a stream and that happens, then I either have to invite my daughter into the stream, which I don't always like doing because she doesn't always behave on stream. She's still in that stage of being a little bit of a child, but also turning into a teenager. So she thinks that she gets to do whatever she wants.
Yeah.
But on top of that, it's like it's interrupting the stream for the other people. They came to see a certain thing, or they came to chat to me about certain things, and then all of a sudden it changes up and the vibe's gone. Because, with my name, Fero Zuks, I live by the spoonerism of that. So when I'm on stream, there's sentence and answers used. It's very 18 plus. There's not a lot of shouting at people for saying certain things. But if my daughter's there, I have to stop all that and make it a family-friendly stream.
Yeah.
Which is not what my community is. We are supportive, but we're not like, we are adults. We're not there for kids to be around all the time. And it makes me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, I get that. Twitch is more of an adult escape place. It's not a place for children.
Well, they have the rule of being 13 for an account for a certain reason.
I think they should raise that to at least 16 to 18, though. Being streamers, we know what we deal with when they come into our chats.
The 13 makes sense if they do it as it's supposed to be done, because they're not allowed into the chats or to stream unless an adult is there with them. And if that's the case, then they won't be able to troll the way they do.
Yeah.
The problem is they get these accounts made for them and then they're allowed to just do what they want. So they go on streaming on their own and Twitch doesn't remove them, and they don't enforce the TOS of you've got to have a parent with you. And it's like, there's some of us out there that are trying to keep our streams going, and we're ending up with these trolls in our chat because you allow it. You need to stop this. And I'm talking about Twitch here. They need to stop that being allowed.
I agree.
The unsupervised children on there need to be stopped. Like, as I said, whenever my daughter comes into a chat, when she comes into yours, she's only allowed in mine, yours, and Remedy's so far, because I know they're safe places for her to be and that you two already know her.
Yeah.
And she's got me in the room with her. So if she does start misbehaving, I can tell her off straight away.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's encompassing it all. It's like, you've got to be the role model for your kid, but also to game and to de-stress and to actually do it as an adult. You've got to have your kid go to bed or go to their other parents and let you have that space.
Yeah, that sacred time.
So it's a difficult balance, especially as she's growing older and wanting to sleep later and later.
As a writer and poet, what inspires your creativity the most? How do you decide what stories or poems to tell, especially with everything you juggle in life?
With the poetry, it started out for me when I was going through counselling at a young age. I'd been put into counselling and I refused to speak because I'd been brought up that men weren't allowed feelings. So if I was to sit there and share my feelings, then I'm not really being a man. And after 3-4 sessions, my counsellor got really annoyed of sitting there for 45 minutes to an hour and speaking to me but getting no answers, and said, can you please try and write some of how you're feeling? You don't have to show it me, but write it. I thought, okay, I can do that. So I started texting some of it into my phone and saving it as drafts, because bear in mind this was back before smartphones. And they came out basically as poems, ready, set, no editing needed. They just automatically came out that way. And I was like, oh, this is awkward. I didn't realise that I could do this. So I carried it on, and as time went by, it was like I kind of opened myself up to learning more about the art form of poetry and the way that I write, and changing it up and building the language that I used. And eventually I got to a point where I noticed that a lot of my poems were about the mental health aspect of life or love. There was only the two sides of things to me at the time. That's all I could see. Very black and white. It was the mental health and the love. And as I've carried on, I started to realise that life for every positive you get out of it has several negative costs along the way. And I thought, well, this makes a lot of sense to the way that I've been writing over the years, because for every one love poem I'd ever written, I had at least 2 negative poems written up that were about the depression or the anxiety or the pain that I'd been in. And they were my main muses. And besides that, it was adding in music, which has always been a massive inspiration to me. So I would take a snippet of a lyric or a song title or something like that, and I'd throw it in there with a piece of my poetry and use the music's message to further on the message that I was trying to write out about how I was feeling. And I mean, it's 20 years now since I started writing, so it took me 19 years to finally finish my book, and it still counts to this day that there is always going to be more negative pieces by me than positive. And it's not so much that I spend my day looking for the negatives, it's just how my brain's been wired over the years with depression and anxiety. I can push through that and still, have fun and chill with my friends and stuff, but when I get to the silence at the end of the day, that's where my brain goes.
I understand that.
And you'll still find like little snippets. Like I've got a piece I wrote a while back that was not even inspired by anything that I'd lived through. I was looking at somebody else I cared about and wrote about their experience. And when I'd wrote it out and I showed it to them, they were like, how did you know how deeply this went? And unfortunately, that was when I realised it was something that I'd personally lived through. I just didn't think to write about it at the time until I saw it in somebody else.
So being a published author is no small feat. So can you tell us about your book on Amazon and what message you hope readers will take from it?
It definitely isn't a small feat, but it's a lot easier to self-publish than it is to be picked up by a major company. The book I wrote is 19 years in the writing, and I wanted to set it out in such a way that it would portray that message of every cost brings a positive. So for every 2 pieces that have a negative undertone, there is a positive piece after it. And I mean, as I said, this is 19 years in the writing, but it also took me around 70 hours worth of editing afterwards to try and get it onto Amazon in the format that they want, because they don't make it easy. You have to keep saving and editing and then pushing a little bit further and making sure everything's lined up correctly, because they don't give you the dimensions of the book before you get through to the point of putting your transcript into it. But it was something that I'd wanted for a long time. I just never believed I could do.
But you
And
did
my
it.
partner, I did, but it was literally down to my partner. I'd pushed her to publish her work that she'd had written and ready to hit send and publish for 4 years, but hadn't ever hit send. So it had taken me several years, and I managed to push her to do it. And then at the 4-year anniversary for us as being together, I decided that I would listen to her and go ahead and publish my work, because she'd been asking me to do so for so long. And it was tiring. As I said, the amount of editing that you have to do, and the finite details of the editing as well, just having to just keep going back. I mean, I think I had something like 300-400 copies of my transcript saved, all with very slight deviations to where the spacing was, just to get it right in the book.
Wow. I'm proud of you for doing it, though.
That's what the 70 hours was, because as I say, all the pieces were already written. It was 70 hours of moving it forward, 1 space, 2 space, 3 space. Right, that one's in place, now on to the next one. Oh wait, the next one's now over 5 different pages. Why? Now I've got to move bits back and then move bits forward again. It was the most annoying part of all of it. And I think part of the reason I don't write as much now is because of the amount of stress I went through with the editing of the book. Now, if I had someone that was professional and knew what they were doing, go ahead, do it for me. Brilliant. But trying to do it yourself when you've never done it before, it was excruciating.
But you did it.
Took me 2 weeks for that 70 hours. It was 35 hours per week.
Wow. Okay, so we've had plenty of deep conversations. What personal values do you bring to your creative work, and how do they shape the way you engage with others, both online and in real life?
For me, as I said, it's all about being who you are. Don't hide yourself behind a facade to try and make yourself likable to somebody else. I'm welcoming to everybody. I always have been. But if you push it and get to a point where you're starting to annoy other people that are around me that I know need protecting, you're going to be gone. I don't stand for anything like that. And that's part of what the Fero Zuks part is. Obviously, I'm not going to say the correct way there because of this going to YouTube.
Yeah, they'll figure it out.
It's part of what it is. I don't particularly care if it's gonna upset somebody for getting blocked and banned if it's protecting my community. That's the main and most important thing. It's the community. It's not me, it's not the games, it's nothing to do with the channel, it's them. Because without them we are nothing.
Very true.
And that's part of why I ran the seasonal support streams, because I knew that there was a lot of people alone at Christmas, because I am. And I know how it feels because I've been alone for a lot of Christmases. Even though I've got my family and I've got my daughter spends it with her mother, so I spend it alone at home.
Yeah.
And it can be heartbreaking because it's supposed to be a time of year you're together with everybody. And I didn't want that. So I wanted a safe space for people to be. And I thought, if I'm going to do it one day of the year, I'm doing it all days of the year. That's just who I am. And I will take time and I will stop streams and talk about the mental health aspects of things because I've lived through it, because I've spent over 20 years supporting people with it. I understand how important it is. So I will sit there and I will have the deep conversations with people and I will look after my community where I can. But obviously there's only so much I can do as one person.
Yeah.
So I expect that the people coming into my community will also be bringing the same kind of values, that they will be there to support people, to bring a bit of positivity to this world, because we have enough negativity around it.
I agree.
I mean, like, you know full well that I can come in, I can troll and I can annoy you, but I'm not doing it in a nasty way. I'm turning it up for a laugh. I have a joke with you at the end of the day. We're still friends. We get along. I'm still there for you and you're still there for me.
Yeah.
That's a positive thing and you're allowed to do that. But there are times it gets pushed past a joke, and that's the point at which I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No, this is where we stop. And that's usually the point at which you kick them out before I've had a chance to, because, you know.
Yeah. Everybody's a suspect in my eyes, so.
Fastest mod in the West.
Yes. So you've been part of my faith-based community. How do you feel about being part of spaces where beliefs don't align with your own? And what has kept you open to those discussions?
I've never discredited anybody's beliefs, ever. You are allowed to believe whatever you want. You're allowed to go about your life in whichever way you want. The only time that it gets too much for me is if it's tried to be forced down my neck so that I have to believe it. See, I've been through that. I was forced into church as a kid. I was put into the choir and I was supposed to be the good child for my grandmother, and it didn't sit right with me. I did it for around 6 years of my life, and then when I watched my grandfather die, that was like the moment where I turned around and said, I can't believe in a God that would take this man away from me and take him away from the community. So I followed a different path in life then, and for many years I was off the rails. I didn't have no purpose, I didn't have no path, I didn't have anything. I just did what I wanted when I wanted to do it. And as I got older, I realised that that was a mistake and that I needed to have some form of purpose to drive me forward. So I chose to just be the positivity and be the kindness that I would like to see out of other people in the world. And granted, that's not going to be thrown out to absolutely everybody in my eyes, because there are people that have done things that don't deserve kindness to be shown back to them. But it doesn't mean I'll show any negativity towards them either. I'll just ignore their existence.
Yeah, we kind of share that. They just stop existing altogether.
Yeah. It's like I've always followed that I've told you about before, where everybody's got a piece of rope.
Yeah.
And that's the one piece of rope that they have with me, and it's tied to me. And I give them trust from the very beginning. Because if you can't go into a friendship or a relationship with trust, then you can't carry on in it. But once that trust is broken, that's when I will cut that cord and they'll be gone out my life forever.
Now, you see, because I'm the total opposite. I am, you don't have my trust to begin with, you will earn it, or I will turn around and go the other way. Like, I don't have the time for it.
See, I can understand that, but also that then means that you have to earn their trust.
True. Which is Pretty hard to do.
Yeah, so the way I'm working it is I'm going to give you my trust. I expect you to give me your trust. A little bit of respect goes either way. And if either of us breaks that trust, then it's done.
Yeah. Well, see, I used to
That
approach
way,
things with everyone was cool when I first met them, and then I just expected everything that I was giving they would give back. But then when you don't get it back, you're just like, okay, people don't do this anymore. So okay, fine.
there's a lot of take in the world.
Yeah.
And you see that all the way up through every echelon of person. And greed is a massive thing. But I don't need for much. You know, I've always been a simple person. I need a little bit of an ear to vent to once in a while. Maybe a chance at sleep once in a while.
Yeah, you definitely need sleep.
And a good laugh here and there to just keep my positivity up, because when you're stuck with the amount of negativity around you and then you're also dealing with pain every day and being stuck in a wheelchair and you're not able to do the things you love, because believe it or not, I used to love my job. Like, a lot of people hate their work.
Yeah.
I loved it. I felt like I was getting paid to go to the gym because my work was heavy lifting. So it was fantastic. I was outside in the open air, it come rain or shine, didn't care. I loved it. Then to have that taken away from me and to be stuck inside in four walls all day was so horrific for my brain.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do. So I started seeking out places to find that positivity to bring it back so that I could then push on myself. So it's not like my streams are for everybody else and I'm feeding them the entertainment. They're also coming in and feeding my positivity and building me up and making my energy levels go through the roof, because I freaking love it. I don't feel like I can do it right now because my anxiety's gone through the roof and it keeps telling me, again, nobody wants to watch you because you've been away for too long and, you know, you're not going to come back with the same energy as you used to have. And also the fact that I now look like Quasimodo with my eye all swollen and stuff, you know, it plays in my mind. But as soon as I can break through that barrier and get back onto the stream, I know full well I'll be on the other end of it with positivity.
Yeah, I can't wait for you to return. I'll try to be there.
It's just breaking through that wall, and I know what's in front of me. I just can't break it in my brain right now, and that's part of why, like I said, I've not been able to sleep recently, and I've not been actually able to function on streams and stuff because I'm feeding the negative in my brain and I can't break through. So all I'll say for the values and everything that I'm going to share is be honest and be kind. You know,
Yeah.
my stream's all about that. We're supportive. I think within my first year we'd got something like 67 people to affiliate. And then within my second year, we broke the 100 barrier. And after that, I just completely lost count because there were so many.
I know you pushed me across it.
I mean, just that in itself, one person. If you can help one person to achieve their dream, I mean, how can you look at yourself at the end of the day and think that you've not done good in the world?
I think if you help just one person, there's something great waiting on you on the other side.
I'm not so sure if there's going to be something great waiting for me on the other side, personally.
I don't know, bro.
But,
You've changed a
but
lot of lives.
I would happily take just coming back here, getting to haunt some people and wind people up, you know.
So
just moving people's car keys.
So we both turn to different things when life gets hard. What do you rely on for strength and motivation, and how does that shape the way you approach things, both in gaming and in life?
I know most people would say the friends and family, but for me it's music. Like, I've never really been able to turn around and say I can count on the friends and family that I've had in my past when I've needed them. It's always been like, oh, we'll get to you within a week or two. I'm like, no, I'm breaking. I need it now. So I always turn to music. One of the main songs that got me through everything when I was struggling the most was The Show Must Go On by Queen. And I'd play it on repeat because I was at a point where my mind was so broken that I didn't want to be here anymore. So the only way that I could start to try and fathom the fact that there was a possibility of a future was to listen to the words in The Show Must Go On. Now, I don't know whether you know the story behind the song.
No, I don't.
So Freddie Mercury was very ill, as you know, and he was already terminal by the point that that song was written. And it was written for him by Brian May,
Yeah.
his friend. And it was written for him because he knew that the ultimate love of Freddie's life was performing for the crowd, to give positivity. And he asked Freddie if he was ready to go and perform still or not. And he said, yeah. And Brian had wrote the song, and he's like, so this is what we're going to work with. The show must go on. And it was written in homage to Freddie Mercury for the showman that he was. Because even when he was dying, he still put on that damn show. So I've listened to that so many times in my life, and I've got it tattooed on my arm because that has been one of the ultimate factors in the reason that I remained around. Doesn't matter how hard times get. Doesn't matter what's waiting for you on a week's time, month's time, year's time. You have to wake up every day with the belief that the show must go on, and you have to achieve something with yourself.
I agree.
It doesn't matter as well so much whether you've got the support network either. Because as long as you keep telling yourself to rise up and push for your own dreams, and you keep that negativity at bay, you've got every chance of achieving it all.
So as we wrap this up, let's go a bit deeper. Even though we have different belief systems, do you see any similarities in how we seek purpose and meaning in life? How do you manage those differences while ensuring that respect remains at the core of our friendship?
Of course there's similarities. There's similarities in every religion and belief. You know, they're rooted in being there for your fellow man, supporting. And I say fellow man as in that, but obviously I mean all humans. They are all rooted in supporting everybody, being there for everybody, because we're all bleeding the same blood. We are all breathing the same air, and we're all living on the same earth. And without each other, we can't survive. So it doesn't matter whether it's atheist, agnostic, Christian, Sikh, Muslim, any of them. They are all rooted in the belief that there is kindness to be given. But, you know, it's not something that you can lose respect for somebody for, because we're all searching for a reason to be. Now, if that's somebody's reason to be, why take it away from them? Just because I don't believe it doesn't mean they shouldn't. And if I did say I don't believe it and you shouldn't believe it, then am I really following the path of kindness to other people?
True, very true.
You know, you're taking away somebody's dream at that point, because they dream that there is something in the afterlife for them.
You're
that
taking
they're
away their
working
hope.
towards.
Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, I think that's the worst thing you can take from someone. If someone's left with no hope, they don't want to be here anymore.
I agree. So that's a wrap, warriors. I hope this conversation with my friend has inspired you to think about resilience, creativity, and finding purpose in unexpected places. Remember, no matter our differences, we can always learn from each other. Thank you for joining us today, and be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who could use a little encouragement. Until next time, stay strong, keep pushing forward, and as always, Godspeed, humans.